Hello everybody, my name is Italo Oliveira. I am a PhD student in computer science at Free University of Bolzano in Italy. I'm part of the Conceptual and Cognitive Modeling Research Group, and here I'm going to present our work, which is a systematic and mapping study of the literature about security core ontologies. Firstly, I'm going to give you the context of our research. I will explain what I mean by ontology. I will briefly explain our methodology, and the most important part, I will show you the results, and finally give some final remarks. Okay, we have noticed that there are multiple ontologies about security in the literature, especially about information security, cybersecurity, and they are intended to provide support for different applications, like risk management, knowledge management, simulation of threats, and so on. However, having so many different ontologies gives rise to issues of semantic interoperability, domain understanding, and it also makes harder to reuse the models. The core ontologies are intended to provide a solution for these problems. They should be able to cross subdomains of a given domain, cross different applications. So clearly they have some degree of generality. And our aim is to give an updated mapping study of the literature about this kind of ontology, core ontologies, in the domain of security. We tend to find some research gaps. More specifically, we would like to understand and find whether these ontologies are findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, the FAIR principles. This work is a basis for future research towards an ontological analysis of security, which is an ongoing work of our group. The intention is to create a general ontology of security, a well-founded one, which is a well-known open challenge in the field. So what do I mean by ontology in this work? We are particularly interested in the conceptualization of the domain of security. So we consider the conceptual model, like UML model, but also when these conceptualizations is described in natural languages, described as a set of entities in the domain of security, like vulnerability and risk and threats and so on, and set of relations as well. We consider also the formal specification of this conceptual model, like description logic axioms and the executable information artifacts of this specification, like OWL file. So the research questions of our work are: which security core ontologies exist in the literature? This is a selection. And which language have been used to represent the core ontology of security? So this question is naturally related to the interoperability and reusability issues. And the third is, are the specifications of security core ontologies publicly available? If so, where are they? So this question is related to the findability and accessibility of these ontologies. And the fourth is, which foundational ontologies have been used in the design of such core ontologies? So we know that using foundational ontologies improve the interoperability between ontologies and also helps to conceptualize the domain. And this is a particularly important topic in our research because in the end, we want to create a well-founded core ontology of security. And our last research question is which terms appear most often in the core ontology of security? So this is also important for the creation of that general ontology of security that I talked. Okay, the methodology. Here are the databases we used: Web of Science, DBLP, Google Scholar, Scopus, and so on. Okay, let me go on. So to give you an idea about the search strings we used, here we have common security ontologies, security core ontologies, and a couple of more search strings. We use some different ones depending on the database. So if the database is too large, like Google Scholar, we use more narrow strings. Okay, and the classification schema is what we use it to analyze the papers, what we were looking for. And they are the implementation language, the artifact availability, foundational ontology, and the concept words. Okay. So the results are the following. For the first research question, we have 57 studies presenting core reference security ontologies grouped by year. We see that in the first years of the 20th century, non-studies were founded. Okay, and actually, if we look at for ontology-based approach to security in general, we don't find many studies before 2000. So this suggests this topic is quite new. And to the second research questions, we found that the most used language is OWL, okay, which is a W33C standard, okay, and the second one is UML. Sometimes the studies use a particular notation that we call here UML-like. A good amount of them use natural language, as you can see here, NL, about 10% of the total. And about the third research question, we only found 6 studies that are not the studies, the core ontology, okay, the file that are publicly available. So we searched for it a lot in different places, even when it's not stated in the paper, but we couldn't find more than 6. Actually, if you are interested, there is a catalog of security-related ontologies, and we use it. Here the link. It's quite useful, but some of the links are not working properly, and there are many ontologies that are in the catalog that don't have any any source at all. So about the foundational ontologies, we have seen that only 4 from the 57 studies make use of some foundational ontology. One study uses the basic formal ontology, BFO, and the other 3 use the descriptive ontology for linguistic and cognitive engineering, the DOTE. Okay. About the last research questions, we found this concept, vulnerability, assets, threats, countermeasure, attacks, and so on. So since the files of the ontologies were not completely accessible, available, we could only count these terms using the very paper, what they say explicitly about the ontology. So when there's a model there, we could count the main terms, the most general terms in that ontology. We can see that there is a general lack of consensus, since even a concept that is so important like vulnerability appears just in half of the ontologies. And to conclude, we noticed one thing that was already noticed in a older literature review by Blanco in 2008, that there is a general lack of availability of these ontologies. And also, there's a lot of work to do using foundational ontology to support, to ground the core ontologies of security. And one good point is that the community has been using OWL, which is a standard, massively. They have been using massively. And UML also is a kind of standard in practice. So it helps for interoperability and reusability because people know them, but it's not enough. And finally, we make a claim for the need for advancing a proposal of a core ontology of security that are findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And for that, we believe that using a foundational ontology is quite helpful. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, feel free, go ahead and get in contact if you want. Thanks.